Bonjour everyone, I'm your humble French tarot reader slash deck goblin Marine, and today we're going to be talking about oracle decks I've been loving lately. I try and do these videos every 2 to 3 months, and I realized I don't think I've done one this year yet, so it was about time to remedy that and to do a little bit of a spotlight, as I like to do, about the oracle decks I've been enjoying, as it's a nice way to come back and share with you how I've been using these decks. Some of them you might have seen in my hauls, as they are quite new, and some of them are definitely much older favorites, but that are still going strong in my tarot practice, and that I want to give a little bit of a shout out today, how they integrate into my card reading practice, and just having a chill chat about some awesome oracle decks that I've been enjoying lately. That's what we're going to be doing today. If you're new here, I want to say a huge welcome. In the description box, you're going to find all the names of the decks I'm mentioning today. If I have time, I'll try and put links. You will also find down there the link to my second channel, The Waves of Your Soul Readings. This is where I put all of these great decks to good use as I create monthly guidance, pick up pile readings, tarot readings for you guys on lots of different subjects. Reading the cards is my love language, so I absolutely adore being able to do that for you. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Let's have a look at some awesome oracle decks I've been loving lately. There's some indie, there's some mass market, there's definitely a bit of everything, so let's get into it. We're gonna start with two affirmation decks, kind of mantra decks, little decks that I like to use in my readings, whether that's for myself, on my readings channel, or when I'm doing readings for others. I like to use these decks to wrap up the reading and to give people a little mantra, a little affirmation for them to carry with them. And these two decks have been my go-to for these since pretty much the beginning of the year. I don't think you'll be very surprised if you watch any of my videos. Of course, we're talking about first the Little Frog's Guides to Self-Care. I'm obsessed with this little froggy deck. It's so cute. It's a mass market deck by Mabel E. Quay. It doesn't come with a guidebook because all of the writing, as you're gonna see, is on the cards. It does come with a little wood stand though, which is somewhere on my altar, and I paid very little for this. So honestly, this is one of the most affordable decks out there right now because you get 52 cards, so one for each week of the year if you want it. You get a wooden stand, and this makes a great present. I actually got this for a couple of my friends for Christmas who loved it. It's just super adorable, and yet it kind of packs a punch. So as you're gonna see on each of the cards, we have these cute froggies with fabulous boots, which is one of my favorite things about them. And we have for each of them an affirmation surrounding self-love, self-care. It looks cute, but it goes deep, right? With my fear, do not control me. This is not just love and light, which is why I really adore it, because we have the juxtaposition of cuteness, adorable, fierce, boot, mushroom hat, froggy living their best life, with some affirmations that actually can go deep, that actually look at some good reminders. Some of them are more common than others, and yet they always deliver, they always pack a punch, and this is such a good one to finish readings with. I love pulling a card for myself every week. Like I said, I love pulling a card every time I'm wrapping up a reading on my channel, for example, giving people their mantra for the month, things like that. It's just so cute and really well made. So I have only good things to say about this deck. I mean, look at this. My trauma doesn't make me less lovable. This is just so sweet and yet so healing. Like I was telling you, I think this makes such a great gift. I've already gifted it to a few of my friends, and I can think already of 5 other people who would love this in their life, even if they're not super into cards like me. There's still something really joyful about putting your little affirmation for the day. So I really, really love this one. You guys have seen it a ton on my channel, and I'm still enjoying it months after purchase. So this is definitely a huge fave. Other affirmation deck that I've been absolutely loving ever since the beginning of the year is this one, Take What You Need by Danny DiPiero. Danny goes on Instagram as positively present, and I love to follow their Instagram account because it's full of gorgeous graphics, and again, very rooted around healing, self-care, mixed with cuteness. This is everything I need and want in those kind of like affirmation decks that I want to use to wrap up a reading. It's something that is both sweet yet impactful. I absolutely adore this kind of mix. Again, we have no guidebook, so here are the backs, which are some of my favorite backs. It's so cute. Absolutely adorable. For this particular deck, we have how many cards? It's 56. So again, really great. Lots of cards, very affordable last time I checked. Mass market, a great gift again to give to people who like to journal, who like self-care, who like to pull a little card of the day. This is absolutely adorable. It would make a great gift for even teenagers. Like my inner teenage self would have loved that deck. I think it's so cute, but you know, I'm a big kid at heart and I still love this particular aesthetic. This one is another one that I use for wrapping up readings, for getting like last message from your guide, a little affirmation, a little mantra. The name, Take What You Need, is literally perfect in my opinion. You pull a card and this is what you need. It's nothing groundbreaking. There's no word here that are too woo-woo, too spiritual. There's no talk about God, the universe, archangels, or fairies, or anything like that, right? That people might find too woo-woo. I love all of that, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. This one feels definitely more grounded in reality, a little bit of, self-care, a little bit of self-love. So even for people who are not super into the woo stuff, I think they would enjoy this one. Plus, come on, the graphics are so cute. It's just really beautiful. Like I told you, I love the Instagram account. So when I found out that this deck was out, I actually gifted it to a friend of mine about a year ago because she loves that Instagram account as well. Earlier this year, I was like, you know what? I want it too. I kind of feel like I need that deck in my life because she was enjoying her gift so much. So I decided to pick it up for myself as well. And I have zero regrets. This was one of my best purchases of the year so far. I absolutely adore it. I've been using it in pretty much every single one of my pickup pile readings on my second channel, because every time you want to wrap up the reading, this will tell you exactly the summary of what you've been talking about. It just works. And on top of that, it's a delight to look at. I've also been using a ton for myself. This one lives on my bedside table at night. I'll pull a little card, gives me exactly what I need to hear. And it's simple, straight to the point. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but a nice little gift that you can give yourself. When you pull a card, give yourself a little moment. It's just a joy. Actually, you know what? Let us pull a little card before I move on to the next deck. Let us see. What do we need at this moment in time? What do we have? We have choose compassion for others and for yourself. That's what we need today. So we're going to take that. So that was my little affirmation mantra decks. We're going to move on now to more in-depth kind of oracle decks, and we're going to start with a indie deck by one of my favorite creators, Logan. They are on YouTube as Lark and Legend. I'll make sure to leave their link of their channel and their Etsy shop in the description box. You might know them as a creator of the Black Salt Oracle, the Black Salt Tarot, but their creation that I've been enjoying the most lately is actually their latest creation, which is the Pink Sugar Oracle. This was very generously sent to me by Logan as a Kickstarter preview, and I'm so grateful again. Logan, if you're watching, I'm sending so many hugs. And the Kickstarter campaign was successful, and now I've started to see people who are getting their decks. I'm pretty sure this deck will then go to be available on their Etsy shop, I'm guessing, as this is often the case after Logan runs their campaign. They then put their decks on their Etsy shop. So I'll make sure to leave the Etsy shop down in the description box. But this has been a joy to use ever since the start of the year, so I wanted to mention it again. So we have this beautiful box. So this is again a nice and chunky oracle deck. We have 56 cards, which you guys know, anything above 40 makes my heart sing. I love a chunky oracle deck. I am a very greedy bitch, okay? I love chunky decks. If decks have very few cards, I get very sad. I am so happy every time I see a deck that's around 50, 60. That makes my heart sing. Is all of Logan decks, you have an amazing guidebook. I think they put so much effort into their decks and so much effort into the guidebook that it's such a joy to read every single time. For this one, in the guidebook, on one page, on one side of the page, you will have keywords as well as the meaning of the card, which is oftentimes related to personal development and personal expansion, things like that. But you can also use this deck intuitively for fortune telling. It's very versatile deck. deck, and I'll talk about it when I share the card. My favorite part of the deck is actually this part on the right hand side, which is called the creator's lens. On that side, for every single card, Logan talks about what was the inspiration behind the card, if there's an actual object that inspired them, if it referenced any pop culture elements, what was the inspiration behind the card. And I love that so much. It helps you to bond with the deck, it helps you to get behind the artist's vision, the inspiration, the creativity, and it's just fantastic. So beautiful guidebook. And look, even the attention to detail, like the guidebook edge is pink. Can you believe that? That is such beautiful production quality. The cards are absolutely gorgeous. For all of my pink lovers, you cannot, with this beautiful like pink kind of hollow glitter effect that you'll see on the front as well. The sides again are matte pink, just like the guidebook. Such beautiful attention to detail. And then the front of the cards are actually day-to-day objects that we can all find in our homes or that we might all be familiar with. The added sparkle is that you have this gorgeous, again, pink hollow with little glitter effect on each of the cards, which makes this deck such a joy to use. Like, this is definitely giving Sailor Moon, fantasy, pink eleganza, extravaganza, and it is such a joy to use. So Logan actually has the Black Salt Oracle, which is the same cards, same object represented, same guidebook, but in the Black Salt it is hollow, colorful hollow on black background. For the pink sugar we have this pink hollow on light pink background, and it's just a delight, you guys. It's so adorable, so gorgeous, and on top of that it reads like a dream. Like I said, I really enjoy the writing from Logan. I love to know why they were inspired by every single object, what was the inspiration behind that. This is one that I've been using both for fortune telling and for personal development, as it's a really versatile one. I'm realizing now I should have totally included it in my versatile oracle decks videos that I've done. I'm a dum-dum because this would have been absolutely perfect for that. You know me, I'm a bad YouTuber, and sometimes brain fog with chronic pain gives me terrible memory. So here I am remedying that. If you're looking for a versatile deck that can be both great for fortune telling and personal development, that can do a lot of different things, this one is definitely an option because it represents like objects from the day-to-day. The idea behind this deck is that you are using your intuition to bring magic into the mundane, right? It's reminding you that through day-to-day objects, through things that we might find in people's home or that we might remember from our grandparents' home, things like that, that are just part of the collective, of our collective mind. Things like a charging cable that we all have in our homes, through using these objects to connect to our intuition and to assign spiritual or divinatory meaning. It's a way to remember to bring magic into the mundane, to realize that there is ways for our day-to-day life to be magical, to be spiritual, to be ritualistic even, and there's just something very precious and special about this deck. It was really built with intention. You can tell every object was chosen with an intention. Reading the guidebook helps you understand the inspiration behind each one, and it's just such a joy to use. I've loved using this specifically with my more colorful deck. I've been on a huge anime deck kind of bandwagon since the start of the year in terms of tarot. I've been loving decks that feel very anime and manga looking, like the Cardamom Dreams, the Summer Tarot. I've been loving using the Forest Spirit Imprint Tarot. All of my decks that are giving you a little bit like anime manga vibes, I've been really enjoying them since the start of the year, and this pairs beautifully with that. But it just goes with all of your modern decks, obviously. Any tarot deck that has this kind of like modern vibe, any deck that's colorful and cute, this is just a joy. So I wanted to mention it as I've definitely been enjoying it a lot, and I've seen people starting to receive their Kickstarter campaigns and everyone is loving it so much. So I'm really happy that the campaign was a success, because Logan is a fantastic creator and they deserve all their praise. So that's the pink sugar, but quickly, for those of you who prefer black and white, I just want to let you know that you can get the same deck, same images and everything. You can get it with this gorgeous like hollow. I don't know if you can see it properly in this light, but this is actually holographic, very beautiful Rainbow Hollow. It's another option. It's the same deck, but for those of you who prefer this kind of aesthetic, less pink and more, you can get it as the Black Salt Oracle. So definitely been a huge fave since the start of the year. I want to quickly shout out a gift I was given, which is not actually for sale, but it's a deck I've been enjoying, and this is what this video is about. So I'm still gonna mention it to you guys. But this is a Wildscape Odyssey Oracle. It was created by the amazing Hassan, who goes as Luxentius on Instagram. I'll make sure to leave their Instagram link down below. This is the name of the deck, but they created it as their own creative project, as their own like personal project to flex their creative muscle, and then they very kindly offered to send me a copy, which has absolutely blown me away, and this has been a huge favorite. I've been using this deck non-stop. I absolutely adore what Hassan has done. I completely respect the fact that he doesn't want to be selling it to the grand public because this was created as a personal project, so I completely appreciate that. Not everyone wants to be a deck creator, large scale, have to deal with shipping or anything like that, but I'm just so grateful that he sent over a copy to me, and it's a gift I'm gonna be appreciating and cherishing for a very long time because I really love what he's created. It's full of intention, it's vibrant, it's beautiful, and I will make sure to leave Hassan's Instagram in the description box. Make sure to check their posts. They are always posting other creations and their readings, and very intentionate, creative, compassionate kind of reader, and I really enjoy what he does. So I wanted to say again a huge thank you if he's watching for sending me his deck, and it's been such a huge favorite, and there's nothing more that I love than when people send me their creation. I think it's so special, so this has definitely been a huge favorite for me. You're gonna see it in future picker cards on my second channel, The Waves of Their Soul readings, for sure. Let's talk about a French mass market deck that I've had for years, that I love to use constantly, and that I realized I haven't mentioned on my channel in a while, so we need to remedy that, because this is one that's definitely always on the rotation for me. I use it for myself, I use it for others, and that is the Oracle Aromatique by Lucie Christian. So this is a French mass market deck. You can get this on amazon.fr. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description box. This one has how many cards? 36 cards, so not too many, but this definitely is a few years old. I think I got this in 2019 or 2020. At the time, it was the norm to have shorter oracle decks. Sadly, it's a little bit more common now to have decks that have more cards, but back then, 5-6 years ago, decks were around 40 cards normally. This is a deck that is based on specifically essential oils and scent, and I love to work with essential oils. I love to diffuse them. I just my moon is in Taurus, so I have like very big affinity to the sense of smell. Like, it's super important for me to be surrounded by things that smell nice. I love being able to connect with plants through working with essential oils specifically, and this one is a huge favorite for me because a lot of the plants that are depicted here are actually related to a lot of plants that I can find in Reunion, and so that's also a huge reason why I love this deck so much, because a lot of the plants are not just plants from the northern hemisphere, but a lot of them can relate to tropical climate, which is where I live. So in terms of the guidebook, for each of the card you have the name of the plant. So here we have eucalyptus, it's linked to purification. We have the Latin name, we have some keywords, you have text here which is all about what eucalyptus is used for, specifically like in terms of the essential oil, the plant, where it grows, etc. You always have a little quote, obviously all in French because this is a French mass market deck. Nothing too difficult to translate, specifically if you use Google Translate, I think you'd be completely fine. Then on the other side you have your message, so this is your guidance message, definitely more related to personal development. So for example here it explains that eucalyptus is linked to purification, to clearing your mind. It helps us to adapt when things are going against us. It helps us to detach from heavy thoughts and things like that. So it's very like personal development, self-growth kind of focus And then you will have always a color, a stone, and a chakra associated to that plant and essential oil. And finally, on the other side, you have the other essential oil from the deck, other plants from the deck that go well with that plant, that have the same affinity or that are getting on, right? So, for example, eucalyptus here, it goes well with mint and camphor, for example. Super interesting deck if you are into essential oils, if you are into plants. I edged my copy in purple because I've had this deck for years, so it was really begging for it. It doesn't come like this, but here are the backs. And another reason why I love it is for the art style, because it reuses this kind of like older vintage art style, but we have people from different backgrounds, different ethnicity, which is not always the case for decks that use like old style photography. So I also really appreciate that we have like people from different countries, different ethnicities represented here. On top of that, like I was telling you guys, this deck holds a lot of plants, a lot of scents that I'm super familiar with, living on a tropical climate. That makes this one my most used plant deck because it's the only one I found that really has plants I can relate to. So here we have tonka beans, which we have a ton in Reunion Island. We grow it and we use in like baking and things like that. We have ylang ylang, another very famous plant here that smells delicious. It's one of those like typical tropical smell that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. We have chamomile, we have cinnamon, another one that we have here. We have vanilla. You know, my mom grows her own vanilla here, so that makes me always happy when I have a vanilla card, which is a little bit more common. We have lotus, and it's just super gorgeous. I love the association of like the botanical engraving, the old style photography. On each of the card, you have the name. So here we have camphor linked to power. Here we have marjoram linked to courage. This one is cedar, and it's linked to wisdom. This is one I have used a ton, like for years since I've had this. I've used it for myself. I use it in my client readings. I pull an essential oil or a plant for people to work with. As all of these plants are often very common in essential oil, it's also great that even if it's a plant that doesn't grow in your climate, you will have no problem finding the essential oil. And I found that essential oils, even to just diffuse or to, you know, put on a little jewelry or something to wear with you around the day, it's an easy way to work with plants. You don't have to think about, can I drink this tea? Can I consume this? Can I do this? Whatever. This is one of like an easier way to work with a plant through smell and through scent. So I really like and appreciate working with this deck. This is one of my favorite cards. She is so cool, and it's linked to vetiver, which is one of my favorite plants that again we have here quite a lot. My mom has some in her garden, and it's linked to grounding. So gorgeous deck that I definitely don't talk about enough, and that I think even if you don't speak French, if you're a little bit familiar with plants, you'd have no problem translating at all. It's mass market, it's gorgeous, and I really like it, so I wanted to mention it again today. Another mass market deck that I've had for years that I'm kind of revisiting since the beginning of January of 2025 is this one, the Sacred Rebels Oracle by Alana Fairchild. This has been out for a really long time. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's one of the very few decks by Alana Fairchild that I've kept over the years. I have a very weird relationship with Alana Fairchild decks. Like for me, a lot of them I got early on because they were one of the only decks we could get mass market, right? She was kind of like everywhere. It was her or Colette Byron Reed or Doreen Virtue. Like those were kind of like the only three creators that you could find mass market. And just like with Colette Byron Reed and Doreen Virtue, I've ended up keeping very few decks because they did not all end up working out for me. This one though, for me, is the best Alana Fairchild deck that is out there. I really adore it because mostly the art style is absolutely stunning. As you can see, it's a little bit larger than your stereotypical tarot card. It's definitely on the larger side. Not that you could tell due to my hands, but don't be fooled, I have huge orc hands, so this is definitely a larger deck, okay? And the reason why this is my favorite deck of Alana Fairchild is because of the art style by Autumn Sky Morrison. This is so stunning, absolutely stunning. Every single card is a painting, and it is kind of like spiritual and it feels channeled, but there's a lot of reference to nature. And on top of that, the guidebook written by Alana Fairchild is great. If you're familiar with the way she writes, you know that she gives you at least 2 to 3 pages. There is a lot of text. Like, for example, if we look at one at random, you have a ton of text, always 2 to 3 pages. It's packed full. You have some healing process, which is often a meditation or a visualization. You have some sometimes some journaling prompt, sometimes it's a meditation, sometimes it's a visualization, a ritual, but there's a lot there. And everything that Alana has written here is fantastic. This is definitely my favorite deck that she's ever made. And like I said, it's pretty much the only one I've ended up keeping over the years. I just really adore this art style. I adore the key phrases. And the great thing about this one is whilst the guidebook is so good, of the nature of the art style and the key phrases, I don't need necessarily to use the guidebook if I don't want to. So if I want to use this intuitively into my pick a card readings, which I've done again recently, I can, because this gives me definitely enough. There's just a lot going on the cards. The key phrases are really interesting, and the whole concept of this deck, which is why it's my favorite, is because it's focused on creativity, and the name of it, Sacred Rebels, is really focused around empowering you, kicking your butt a little bit, reminding you you're the creator of your own life. It feels like a Queen of Wands kind of deck. It feels like it's there to remind you of your power. It feels like it's reminding you of your creativity. And it's also a great deck if you are struggling at a moment in your life where you feel like you are a little bit on the outskirts. You feel like you don't fit in. You feel like you don't fit in society or in the box or in the norm. This is a great one to remind you of your power and to help you accept who you are without any judgment, low self-worth or anything like that. And I really appreciate it because I have a lot of Aquarius in my birth chart and I hate labels and being put in a box. So the whole vibe of this deck, which is all about standing outside on the outskirts, being weird, being the weirdo that you are, flying your freak flag high and being proud of that, that's very much my vibe. Okay, so I really appreciate it. And on top of it, like I said, I find the art style so beautiful. This is definitely one of those decks that I've had in my collection the longest, that still delivers to this day. And for the last couple of months, it's been living on my bedside table and I've been pulling a card every couple of days, and it's just been so lovely to sit with the card, do the healing meditation, read the messages. Such a beautiful little moment I can give to myself. I wanted to mention it because it's not a deck I talk a lot about, and yet over the years it's always been there for me, and it's not one I see a lot of people talk about. Like, I know there's definitely other Alana Fairchild decks that are more popular, but this one is my personal favorite. I think this is her best one for me. Let's talk about a newer deck that I mentioned in one of my most recent hauls. It's a mass market deck, and it is the Alchemy of the Spirit Oracle deck by Cristina Gonzalez. I have been going on a journey with this deck because I love the art style so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a ton of cards again, which is another thing I love. We have 63 cards, beautiful art style you're gonna see. So beautiful. Part of the guidebook is awesome, and part of the guidebook doesn't make sense to me. So I'm having a weird relationship with this one, where I'm ending up almost using this intuitively, because it's a bit of a mixed bag. So let me explain. So here are the backs, which are gorgeous, and like I said, in terms of the art style of the card, it's so beautiful. I love this aesthetic so much. It's everything I love. We have 3 different sections in this deck, which I also really appreciate the fact that we have 3 families. We have animals, we have places like landscapes, and finally we have objects. So we had the lamp, one of the animals, the river is one of the landscapes, the island, that's another landscape, the compass, for example, that's one of the objects or symbol. So you have 3 different categories. Each one I think is really well thought out. I adore the art style. On every single card you have a little kitty that is supposed to represent the self or the ego. I think that's a really nice touch, and I just honestly I'm so in love with this art style. It's adorable, and I'm especially for the animal part. Every single animal I squeal when I pull an animal card. It makes me so happy. There is an otter card in there that is so cute. They are chubby otters and I can't. It's so cute. And the symbolism they've chosen for the object card is great. Intuitively, I can pull so much from that. And even the landscape is really good. The one thing that I'm struggling with this deck, like I said, is the guidebook. Part of the guidebook is so good. Like some of the messages I totally appreciate and get behind the meaning that the creator has assigned to the card, whether it's an animal or an object. When I read the messages, I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. This is what it represents for me as well. For some others, they leave me a bit confused. So the guidebook is a little bit of a mixed bag. Some of the messages really hit home, and then some others left me very, very lost. Like, for example, the waterfall landscape. Like, for example, the other day I pulled the waterfall as one of the landscape, and it was meant to represent justice. The waterfall is justice, and it's almost like the justice card. It's about fairness and equality. And I was like, how does waterfall relate to justice? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I was trying to rack my brain for like 10 minutes thinking, how do you link waterfall with justice? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Some of the cards, the meaning in the guidebook don't make sense to me. Some others are so good and really well written. Chubby otters, can we talk about it? Adorable, I can't. That's my favorite card. So the guidebook is a little bit of a mixed bag, which is a shame because at the beginning of the guidebook, there is a poem that the author has written to one of their loved one who passed away, and that poem made me cry. So when I started using this deck, I read the poem and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be a hit for me. And some of the cards are, like I said, I'll show you the guidebook in a bit. Some of the cards, really the meanings I totally agree with. Some of them I don't get. And that is so personal, right? That's me. It's a personal opinion. Some of you might completely see and agree with the meanings assigned behind the cards, and some of you might not. So what I'm ending up doing, because I love the art style so much and I still enjoy like the majority of the guidebook, is that I'm ending up assigning my own meanings to the card, because intuitively I can pick up a lot anyway as to what the desert means for me or what the graveyard needs for me. So I've kind of stopped using the guidebook now that I'm super familiar with the deck, and I'm using it a lot more intuitively, specifically because I just love the art style so much. Like, that's my favorite part of the deck, is the art style. I love the fact that we have 3 families. That structure I think is really great, having a landscape, an animal guide, and an object. I've done readings where I've separated the cards and pulled one each and intuitively assigned my own meanings to it, and that worked great. So that's how I've ended up working it out for me. Like I said, the poem at the beginning of the deck, stunning, made me cry. The whole first part telling you how to use the deck, some spreads and everything, really well thought out. And then for the guidebook, so as you can see, you have the title, you have a mantra, and then you have messages, and then you have your message, and then you have in balance or out of balance, so upward and reverse. I've used this deck for the last 3 weeks, I would say, and so far I will say 80% of the guidebook I enjoyed, 20% I didn't. So it's really not a big deal. Like I said, I can use it intuitively. If I don't agree, if I personally don't vibe with the assignment of that personal animal or object with that keyword, I can make up my own. But some of them really hit home. Like, it's just so personal, obviously, you guys. It's a very biased point of view. For example, linking the fox to wisdom, I can totally see that. But like I was telling you guys, the waterfall, for example, let's have a look. Linking the waterfalls to the idea of justice, I was so confused. There we go. The waterfall, moment of justice. It says, purify the heart and the mind will follow. This is a moment of clarity and transparency. To be free, you need to be honest, starting with yourself. It can be fairly easy to become your own predator and convince yourself of narratives that are not real. The voice of the spirit is subtle and can end up buried below self-doubt. This is why in this moment you need to be honest with yourself, understand the weight of your actions for the good deeds as well as the wrongdoing. Take accountability for your mistakes, but don't dwell in self-disappointment for too long. Instead, instead turn this energy into action by changing your behavior, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes into be kind. You are aligning with your true self and breaking from patterns that perhaps come from generations before you. You are healing not only for yourself, but for all of those who came before you and will come after you. Things are aligning, a new age is rising, and you are part of it. Like, that's a great message. I love reading that. I just don't understand what it has to do with the waterfall. So again, that might be me. Let me know. If you disagree, of course, you're welcome to. That's just my opinion. But some of the other cards, when I was reading the messages, it really made sense with what it was associated. So again, this is all very personal, but this is, my channel. I share with you guys my opinion, obviously. And what I've ended up doing is using this intuitively because I adore the art style so much, and because I've assigned kind of my own meanings to the card, I have no problem using that. So that is the Alchemy of Spirit. The last oracle deck we're going to talk about today is one that I actually have had for over a year now. It's one I got back in 2024, and at the time I remember telling you guys at the end of 2024 that I was struggling with ranking this deck in my oracle decks because I was feeling like I hadn't worked with it enough to fully make my opinion. And I've been working with this deck consistently since the beginning of the year again, to really get to know it properly, do a lot of readings for myself, for others, and now I can definitely tell you that this is an oracle deck I really enjoy, and it's become one of my favorites in my collection, and that is the Citadel Oracle. This is a mass market deck. It was published by Sterling Ethos and created by Phase Inkwright, and this is a fantasy inspired deck which is based on archetypes that you might find in fantasy books, in role-playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons, video games such as Baldur's Gate, things like that, right? Stereotypical fantasy archetypes like Game of Thrones. So aesthetically speaking, the cards are uniquely shaped, which is quite fun. In terms of the art style, it's very minimalistic. It's black and white with some copper elements. You're gonna see some little like copper highlights. Definitely not my favorite art style because you guys know I love color. You've seen with the Alchemy Spirit, like that's a lot more my vibe. But doesn't matter because the key for me of this deck is more like the depth of it rather than the aesthetic of it. So each card represents a different archetype, and on each of the cards you have some keywords. So here we have the walker, we have the founder, we have the waker, we have the storyteller. So those are all archetypes of characters and people, and some are more like behaviors, some are more jobs, that all relate to the idea of these fantasy books or fantasy TV shows or fantasy video games that we might love to consume, right? So this was created with the idea of both being an oracle deck that can be used for archetypal kind of readings and guidance, as you will see in the guidebook. Because we have those keywords, it also relates to like guidance, things like that. You always have a little bit of a message for your reading, but this was also created with the idea of role-playing in mind. So for those of you who like to play like role-playing, specifically Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, you can use this deck, and it explains in the guidebook how to use this deck to build an encounter, to create a campaign, to create a character for you to play, things like that. So there's tons of ways to use this deck, not just in an oracular kind of way. This could have definitely been part of my most versatile decks now that I'm thinking of it. I obviously forgot to include that one too. I'm a very bad YouTuber, we know that by now. This could have been in my most versatile because not only do you use it for an oracular way, you can use it to write stories, you can use it to create characters for your campaigns, for role-playing tabletop games, you can use it to get inspiration for a book you write, right? You can use it to do readings about shows you're watching. There are so many ways to use this deck, as long as you are remotely interested in this kind of fantasy world, right? If you have zero affinity with fantasy in general, these archetypes will not feel familiar at all, and they might feel very confusing. So you have to be remotely interested in this kind of magical world, these kinds of stereotypical archetypes, such as the adventurer and the smith, that are very common in the fantasy books and fantasy TV shows and video games that we might watch and consume and read. For me, now that I've used this deck for months, I really appreciate the use it can have. I've been pulling an archetype for myself every single month, and it's really helped me to give me some ways to work with that archetype, give me some pointers as to what I'm invited to do in my day-to-day life. I've pulled a card when I was doing client readings. I've pulled like an archetype for each of my client and your head readings, and it works so great for that. I've used it on my channel, the Waves of Your Soul readings, again, to choose an archetype, to work with that kind of archetypal energy. It's really good, you guys. I think if you are remotely familiar with fantasy world in general, and you are interested in working with archetypes that are a little bit unique, that are gonna help you tap into your imagination, your intuition, this is really creative, well thought out, and just so awesome. I'm really enjoying this, and this has become a huge favorite. Like I said, not my favorite art style. It's quite basic and plain. I prefer more color, things like that, but I appreciate that it's pared down, as it's easy to pair with a lot of things. And in terms of the guidebook, you will have for each of the cards a picture of the card. First paragraph will usually be about what this archetype represents. Then you'll have your actual message, so what it means if you pull this card in a reading, and then you have a reversed message as well. At the back of the guidebook, it explains how you can use the deck to build a character, to build an encounter, for, again, role-playing. You can use it for, again, fortune telling. So there's so many ways to use this deck. There's cool spreads that use different families in the deck. As this is called the Citadel Oracle, it relates to an imaginary city, right? And in this imaginary city, we have different parts, different like groups of people. You have the troop, you have the crowd, you have the academy, and you have the court. And within those different families, you have different archetypes. So within the court, you have the aspirant, the assassin, the founder, etc., etc. So it takes you into this really imaginative, creative, unique world, and it's just so great. Like, I'm really impressed how versatile this can be, by how imaginative it is, and also by how much I've enjoyed using it, because whilst this is based in fantasy, I found so much useful information here to tap back into my own personal life, but just with a little bit more of magic and fantasy and whimsy that I really like to incorporate into my reading. So this has definitely become a huge favorite. I wanted to come back and give you my full thoughts. I'm really enjoying this one, and I think if you have any remote interest in working with archetypes, and you are then someone who enjoy reading fantasy books or playing fantasy video games or watching, TV shows like Game of Thrones or The Wheel of Time or anything like that, then I'm pretty sure you would really enjoy this deck. If you guys have zero interest in fantasy, this is not the archetype deck I would recommend to you though. So that's something to be aware of. And that's the last deck we're going to be talking about today. So now it's your turn. Let me know, what are the oracle decks you guys have been enjoying lately? What have been your favorite that you've been using in the last few months? Let me know if you have any of the decks I've shared today, how you use them, how you enjoy them. And I can't wait to read you. I try and respond to all of my comments, and it's always a joy to read you. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out. And until my next video, I'm sending you guys so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!